All right. Now let's take you through a roundup of happenings in East Africa as we are joined this morning by our Ugandan journalist, Darren Bartlett. Bonjour, good morning, Bartlett. How are you doing today?
You have tested my French skills, but I would say bonjour as well. Yeah, at least that,
Pas de problème. All right, let's go straight into it. Uganda's NRM, led by President Yoweri Museveni, this week, as we saw, celebrated 37 years. 37 years of being in power. Wow. Now, this makes Museveni the fifth longest serving president on the continent of Africa, by the way. So, Baron, how do you describe the political environment in Uganda, especially during his reign, versus before his reign in 1986?
Well, Uganda has gone through a series of leadership, and President Yoweri Museveni is the ninth president, and now he takes the lead as the longest-serving president. And before that, we had Idi Amin, who we all know, many people read about him in history, and then Milton Obote, who led the country into, from independence to about 1969 when Idi Amin took on. But all those years were characterized by violence, the way unstable systems of government, till when President Yoweri Museveni came into power. But how would I characterize the leadership of the President Yoweri Museveni? I would say it's one of those that we would say it's cold and hot. Maybe let's call it warm. It's been successful in quite a number of things. The economy of the country has been growing at around 6% every single year. You would like to say that, but also we've seen stable security as compared to what it used to be at that time. But when it comes to the political environment, like if I come to the question that you've asked, so many reports have always been coming out on kidnaps of the opposition members, the allegations of him insisting on staying into power. And indeed, if you go into history, you realize that almost every single term of election that we've been going through or cycle, there has been an amendment in the constitution that has favored the president to stand in power. How has that been done? We had what used to call the age limit that was removed. That was actually the most recent amendment that was made in the constitution. We used to have what we call a term limit, where the president was not supposed to serve for more than 2 terms. That was removed. And you can see quite a number of amendments have been removed to see him stay in power. So Uganda has not had a transition. Actually, in history, Uganda has never had a transition through a democratic process or even a peaceful transition. We've always had coup after coup. President Milton Obote took off the Kabaka through a coup. Idi Amin took off President Obote through a coup. President Amin was taken off through a war with Tanzania. And all the rest that came about have always been taken off through a coup. So yes, I can say that Uganda has experienced the longest security. In terms of security, we've experienced the best security since then. However, there's an argument that is deteriorating here and there because every time we go into an election cycle, you're seeing reports coming out that members of the opposition have been beaten, arrested. The playing field is not the same, and so on and so forth. So there's so many questions. Is the president going to stand again in 2026? Are we going to experience another 40-year rule or even beyond?
Another angle to that, Darren, it's not just, experiencing another 40 years of ruling by the president. The president's son is someone who has also come into the spotlight and has raised concern. General Muhoozi Kainerugaba has been tweeting about taking over power if his father allows him to contest in 2026. Very recently, we talked about how about 13 Bobby Wine supporters were arrested in Jinja district, but they were arrested based on the fact that they were said to have gathered illegally a wedding-turned political campaign. But 140 kilometers from there in the Mbale district, we saw that General Muhoozi Kainerugaba was carrying out political rallies, according to the report. So what would you say is the mood, currently in the NRM party, given that he's still the serving officer in the army, which forbids him from active politics? But on the contrary, we're seeing something different.
It's very interesting. So many serving army officers have tried to do what Kainerugaba is doing now, and they were arrested. They served a punishment. If you've read about General Segusa, one of the right-hand generals of the president at that time, who was also serving as the CMI, the Chief Intelligence Officer, he talked about something about this government, and you know what? He ended up in exile, came back, and he was arrested. First, quite a lot of maybe harsh treatment to him, and others who have done the same, including Tumukunde, who was also in the army, was with Museveni when they went to the bush, and he also stood against him as a presidential candidate, and General Muntu. But this sounds like it's unique, and the feeling in the NRM, which is the ruling government, is like there must be favoritism here. There's something to do with favoritism because he's the first son. They're treating him a little bit different. The president sometime came back when General Muhoozi tweeted and said he's going to take over Nairobi. That is such a serious offense. But the president came out and just apologized and let that go. Under the bush and said he's just a young man who could have made a mistake, but they'll regulate on the things that he tweets. But he continues to tweet the way it is. And his spokesperson came out recently on TV and said sometimes the general is joking. Really, he's not meaning anything. When you talk about the movement and the rallies that are happening now, in their argument, they say that there's a growing movement called MK, which is initials of his name, who just want a sense of youth representation. And they feel that the president's son is the kind of person who can represent them. And when he goes out there, which is interesting that when he's on Twitter, he actually talks about leadership, being a president. When he goes out there, he never campaigns as a person who wants to stand for presidency. But the feeling in the NRM is his son, it's just a matter of time before he comes and takes over the father's seat. Even when the father, President Yoweri Museveni, does not even say it openly, but you can tell by the mood, the t-shirts that have been designed, MK for presidency, MK movement, and some people in the NRM are actually on the side of Muhoozi Kainerugaba, and they support his intentions to become president. Are we going to experience a father-to-son kind of leadership? In my opinion, as Darren, it's just a matter of time, but he will be president.
All right. Okay, let's quickly move on, Darren. Let's take a look at the scheduled visit of Pope Francis to Kinshasa at the end of the month. Now, what is the significance of this visit? Now, we do know that the Pope has been going around, promoting peace, talking about everyone coming together. Do you in any way sense that he will be able to facilitate this?
Well, he comes at a time where DRC is tested, having quite a number of conflicts. And he also mentions it. He says that I'm going to DRC, but what I want is people to be strong, that they have them in thought and prayer. Just after the Defense Democratic Forces bombed a church and killing quite a number of Christians there in a church. And he says that he believes that his presence and leading people into praying for the nation will bring a sense of comfort, at least in what is going on there. But he is also going to engage, of course, government officials. He's going to engage different civil societies, NGOs, and see how they can actually bring some peace in DRC. It's a tricky one. Even the places that he was supposed to visit, some of them have been cancelled. He was supposed to go to Goma, North Kivu, and talk to the people who have been, displaced, refugees, people who are suffering. But that's not going to be possible. And even when he says that, it's not that he fears that it's insecure, but it's because he feels that if he mobilizes people, there could be a target of an attack. But we have to remember that DRC, by the way, on the African continent, holds the biggest number of Catholics on the African continent. They have the biggest projects by the Catholic Church, the hospitals, right from the time of Mobutu Sese Seko to today, number of schools and all that. It feels like being that the Catholic Church is very instrumental in the politics of DRC. Tshisekedi came because he had the support of the Catholic Church. So he feels like if he talks to the people of DRC, those in leadership, those taking over the NGOs, and preach the gospel of peace, unity, because the whole theme of his traveling around to DRC is reuniting under Christ, or reconciliation under Christ. So it's one of those things that maybe religion has or provides a certain hope of bringing peace to Congo. And I mean, it's not the first time I said it, but I said one of the reasons that Congo has such issues is tribalism and sectarianism. And he feels if the Catholic Church can solve some of those issues, likely DRC will experience a peace.
All right, Darren Bartlett, so many stories you've touched on. We look forward to having you join us again. We always are excited when you join us on Fridays to look at these big stories. So enjoy your weekend and see you on Friday.
I'm excited to see you as well. Enjoy your weekend as well.